Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Fall River. This morning, we're going to think about all the things that fall brings to us that we look forward to and enjoy. Warm, sunny days without the humidity, the colors of leaves, the deep reds and golds and shades of burnt orange among the still green leaves, the salt-filled wind off the ocean, things about the past, especially during these pandemic years when perhaps we think about the past more than we usually do. We think about people we used to know, scents in the air we remember, the smell of burning leaves, picking apples with children, an old leather jacket pulled tight against the cold. So there will be nostalgia in our remembering. But fall is also the symbol of a time of transition in our lives. And some transitions are anticipated, like passing from childhood to adolescence, or from adolescence to adulthood, or for most of us, from adulthood to old age, proving that transitions anticipated are not all that welcome. But there are transitions not anticipated, the death of a loved one in the family, including a pet, as we have lost a dear pet recently, Lulu. Or transitions that arise from the unanticipated impact of climate change on our lives, such as the forest fires that now occur almost all year long in California and Oregon. But this morning, there will also be an idea of how we can find a place of peace during these times of transition in our lives that may be just as close as outside our kitchen door. Do we have any announcements? The Course in Miracles continues every Friday morning at 11 o'clock. And we have much of the crew here. Richard Trudeau is one of our participants. Bell Noki is our man who's doing what exactly doing this. And David Ott, who I believe is online this morning, David. And Al Rujo, who I believe is making his way back here. Got some help to make the program classes. Getting healthy for so Al, is that you guys? Maybe I'll visit, but let's go. Any others?
Usually announce the name of the.
I do. Well, thank you, Richard, for that recommendation. I did bring it. For anyone who would like to know who is on the schedule, just come see later on. We have a full schedule to look at. But next week we have a student whose name is Release Saha, was recommended by Daniel Mulala, and I believe she's in her first or second year of seminary school. Second. Yeah. So she'll be interesting.
Excellent, excellent. So to begin our worship service, Richard, I guess, will light our chalice.
You have words that you say if you want me to say words.
Well, why don't you?
Yeah, okay.
You're the resident sage in this congregation. So.
We gather this hour as people of faith, having sorrows and joys, needs and gifts. We'd like to seek hope as a sign of our quest for truth and meaning, and in the celebration of the life we share together.
Thank you, Richard. Our hymn is number 52, In Sweet Fields of Autumn. In sweet fields of autumn, the cold rain is falling, the white clouds drift lonely, the wild sun is calling. Alas for the daisies, the cold fern and grasses, when wind sweep and rain fill the lowlands and passes. The snows of December shall wind the bleak rain and thunder and March wind shall follow the deer through the valleys, leaving from their going, and diamonds of sleep mark the ridges of snowing. The stillness of Asia stoop over the water. The plovers sleep low where the pale streamlets falter. But deep in the earth lies the black sea is blue. When spring sounds her bugles, for rousing and giving. Let us share our covenant with one another. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with our God. Let us join together in prayer. As we enter into this fall of uncertainty, not knowing whether or not this third or fourth phase of the coronavirus will be the last. Uncertainties about other things that are occurring in our lives as well. But knowing that we can control the pandemic that we face, in particular, if we recognize what's at stake for those who have chosen not yet to receive a vaccination, which is the best way to control this virus, recognizing that that choice is not just a choice about oneself, whether or not one should have the freedom to make the choice to accept the vaccine or not. Of course, that's one way to think about the freedom. But recognizing that the accepting and receiving of the vaccine is an act of compassion for others, that you are then less or not in a position to transmit the virus to others, an act of selflessness. Let us pray that those who need to think about that can come to that realization. This is a period in the service where we share joys and sorrows, joys and concerns with one another. So let us hear from those who would like to share a joy or a concern. Yes. We wish her luck. That's great. Not luck, power. Yes.
Okay, so my brother is having surgery on Tuesday to insert a pacemaker. Pretty typical, not a big deal, but he does have dementia and we're very disability, so and so keep it in the thoughts. And me.
Yes.
Yesterday I was at the calling hours for Sheena Da Silva. She was the person that got through the program at the House of Hope in Bedford and died of a brain aneurysm. She was clean, and that's everybody was happy about that. They were not happy about passing such a young age. And the place was packed up the street here. Riders, hundreds of people showed up, most of the folks from some hope and other places. Just wanted to know, others to know that she will be remembered with fondness. So sort of a personal note, her mother, Sheena was her mother's only daughter, only child. And so she was mourning and lamenting to be the band. It's hard to be in the room at the same time with her, and yet the psychologist and he says, go for it. Because she'll get to the morning period over somewhere where she does exactly what she did. So, but it just sort of made it difficult to be there because now you're touching me.
Thank you. Yes.
I spoke at length with Cynthia Flagg yesterday afternoon, and fortunately reporting that Charlie is now in the nursing home. This happened apparently late August. He started having some more challenging issues. So she is home alone with 2 cats. She, according to me, it's the first time in her life at age, whatever age, somewhere that she has ever lived by herself. And Charlie's there. She feels like he knows her when she comes to visit, but it's basically checked out. So I'm going to get information to Eric about where people could send a card to Charlie. May or may not know it, but it would mean something to Cynthia to get got some, and maybe her phone or whatever. So anybody might want to contact her.
Thank you. Yes.
I have a big joy. The Red Sox are winning. They're coming home to Fenway Park. My joy in life has been crazy for the last 20 years about sports. I love my Red Sox. And that's one of the big things. Joy to see how so many different people from all around can get together and enjoy the same thing. Some have, get a little angry with each other about being opposing, but it's fun. As you can see that the Red Sox are enjoying themselves. But as they come back to 3 games, this could be the time. And I am so joyous knowing that I am a Red Sox fan. Thank you.
Well, they should wrap it up in these 3 games and not go back to Houston. And the defense is actually playing rather well. That catch by Kiki Hernandez was fabulous. So that's encouraging. I think that if a team has a strong defense, they've got a good shot. Excellent. As we enter into our silent meditation, we welcome the presence of others not here with us physically as they make themselves known to us. We welcome them into this family. This congregation is a family. That's a picture of congregations that you use may have departed from in recent years, but I think it's an appropriate model for this congregation and for the congregation that I serve in Brockton as well. That people care about one another and they're engaged in one another's lives. They're just not mutual participants in some program or some intellectual exercises. This is a family, a compassionate family, one that I enjoy reacquainting myself with every time I come down here to Fall River. So let us now enter into our own individual quiet meditation. It'll be followed by singing Spirit of Life. Our reading this morning is a responsive reading, and it's in the back of your hymnal, number 540. These are the words of Rabindranath Tagore. Today, the peace of autumn pervades the world. Spreading over the deserted fields to all horizons, its wings of golden green. The many distant villages bask in the sun with eyes closed in idle and languid slumber. In every speck of dust, in every part of my own body, in the visible and invisible worlds. Autumn is indeed that time of special stillness. Let us join in singing hymn 54, Now the Light is Less. Until clear eyes pour on the sea. The spider weaves our silken hair. You keep inclement weather from its young. Straight from the oak the summer is come. Dusk our slow breath thickens on the air. Lost hues of birds the trees take as their own. Long since bronze wheat was gathered into sheaves. The walker trudges and runs deep in leaves. The feather of the milkweed flutters down. Till spring and willow with the year. Our offering is a time when we welcome the gifts for the good works of this congregation. falling leaves drift by the window. Autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your lips, the summer kisses, sunburned hands I used to hold. Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear old winter song. But I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall. Now on my radio broadcast, I would have Eva Cassidy sing that, which is much preferable. Those are words by Johnny Mercer, but they were adapted from lyrics by the French poet Jacques Prévert, and the music by one Joseph Cosmos. It was actually for an old 1946 World War II film, a love story, Les Portes de la Nuit. When I was 15, the song Autumn Leaves expressed a mix of emotions connected with transitions at this time of year. On the New Jersey shore where I grew up, summer lingered into September. And I remember dancing with a lovely tanned young lady at a party in an old Victorian house overlooking the ocean, a party signifying the last event with my summer friends. And this was a different group of friends from those in my high school, young people who shortly would move back to the city, to New York City, and then go off to various private schools in upstate New York or New England. And I would return to the local high school and begin practice for the football season. And the sweet sense of the sea and a girl's sunburned hands would be replaced by the headier smells of freshly cut grass on the football field and by capsulin and odors of the locker room. The song also reminds me of that lost world smell of burning leaves. We don't burn leaves anymore, but leaves my father and I would rake on late Sunday afternoons and evenings, and we would make huge piles of leaves in our gravel driveway and then set them ablaze. And then as the flames rose into the darkening sky, we would poke twigs into the fire and write messages in smoke with the glowing twig end. There's sweetness, but also sadness in hearing that song, Autumn Leaves. I would not see my summer friends for another year, perhaps even forever. So was it summer memories that I clung to as I held that young lady close to me and savored the moment of her perfumed hair brushing against my face as we danced? As we approach the harvest season of fall in New England, there arise in my mind many transitions that have occurred in my life as well as transitions in your lives, in the life of this congregation, this church. We are leaving summer behind, and now we see those patches of reds and yellows and orange that startle us among still green trees. We see it in the growth of Queen Anne's lace and goldenrod along the roadsides. We see it in subtle shifts of light, and especially on those days when the leaden sky is crossed by jagged streaks of white from the northeast, winds off the ocean, unmistakable signals that travel up the coast, bringing the storm surf to those of us who ride the waves. It's a time of great beauty, but also of melancholy. From a poem entitled Early Fall. At 5:30 a.m., the sun emerges from the ocean to absorb the mist that shrouds the trees, igniting their patches of reds and yellows among deep greens of still surviving summer Our promises of fall fulfilled in the stores of winter, the colors having retreated to cold points lost in the vast blue-blacks of January nights. A single yellow leaf tinged with orange circles slowly through the languid air, coming to rest on the fragile skin of the pond, where it joins a coven already turned brown. Its sodden color will not even last the afternoon. At dusk, it will have slipped beneath the surface to lie comatose with others in their watery grave. Promises and pessimism are the emotional boundaries that we feel at this time of year, and yet there are transitions even more powerful than the seasons, transitions of separation, of loss, that require healing. For each loss, one sometimes finds things to replace it, possibilities of regeneration, new life. But these are discovered only in retrospect. At the moment of loss, those possibilities are yet unknown. Some promises are never fulfilled. Congregations experience the loss of older members, as we have of an older woman, Marion O'Donnell. She may have ceased to be a visible presence in the church for some time, but nevertheless, she is a part of a generation that played such an important part in the life and history of the church. Those losses can only be replaced by legacies of love carried on by those who knew her. When families have suffered some devastating loss, a tragic accident, a violent death, news reporters are always looking for closure, but closures for the outsiders. For the families, there's never closure. A reporter from the New York Times was commenting on the 30 different fires that were burning in Oregon and the effects of climate change combined with horrendous winds. Over 1 million acres on fire was beyond comprehension. The thick haze of smoke was grounding flights. In a town, Gates, Oregon, clusters of people were trying to stick it out, put out spot fires. The hillside right behind their houses had burned up. All had open carry of weapons against looting and false rumors of Antifa as being responsible for setting fires. In the small village of Detroit, Travis and Jane James were in the worst area of devastation. 70% of their town was destroyed. Cafes, a motel, a restaurant, a market, a city hall. The town was wiped off the map. This was their harrowing story. On Monday, the winds picked up. The couple were watering the perimeter of their home, hoping to stay and protect the house. At 2 a.m. on Tuesday, it had become too dangerous. Smoke, limbs, and burning trees were coming down on their house, and they received code 3 to get out now. No time even to assemble a bag. They just ran with their 2 dogs and started driving down the mountain to get to safety as trees on fire were exploding around them. A tree fell down right in front of them. They drove around it, but right into a rock slide, and their tire flattened on a rock. Well, they couldn't change the tire, so they turned around, headed back to the town on the wheel rim. The entire forest was ablaze around them. Jane was screaming. All of Detroit was on fire. 78 refugees from the town had taken shelter at a boat dock on the lake, and they were waiting until National Guard helicopters could land. But they were all surrounded. They couldn't get out. 3 helicopters were hovering, but it was then still too windy to land. 65 miles an hour. So they waited for hours, but the winds were too rough. The fire was burning all around them. They were getting covered in debris and ashes. The people were surrounded. They could not get out. Then the service brought fire trucks around them to make a last stand against the fire. They would try to create a wall and spray water on the encroaching flames and hold out as long as they could. Then they got an okay to leave. Everyone lined up in a kind of a convoy of fire trucks and RVs to take another route out. There was fire on both sides of them, trees falling down. They had to stop several times for the fallen trees. Firefighters chainsawed the trees that were still burning. The convoy crept along and tried to stay together as best they could so people wouldn't get detoured into other fire zone that was burning just to the north of the one that had burned their community. Travis said this was a last-minute make-or-break thing. We got one shot and we're going to go. The firefighters were real heroes. Jane was still traumatized after 5 days. Thinking about that trip brought her to tears. Their plan was to return to their home, which survived, and live there, because sitting on their porch was their peaceful zone. Many were planning to go back. This was their commitment to community, but most had no other financial options anyway. But it was beautiful up there. Jane would sit outside for hours watching the wildlife, 3 families of chipmunks, friendly bears. They knew these fires were not an aberrant event of wind that they would now have to live with increased risk living in a fire zone, but people were locked into their homes. They didn't have the money or the freedom to live or to leave. Back in New England, the harvest season we now see unfolding before us brings promises of future fulfillment, the fruits of summer labor for farmers, new projects for engineers, new discoveries for students, even under conditions of the pandemic. But at the same time, the falling leaves of the harvest season remind us of those experiences, those loves, those feelings we once valued that are receding from us, which may be forever lost. It's not by accident that one symbol of the harvest season is the bittersweet, that special wild vine whose berry bursts yellow and orange, but which is so hard to find. So to what can we turn to heal our losses? If we cannot, if we should not succeed in removing them from our consciousness, what can we do to ensure that even if the rains are soaking the hay in the fields and the vegetables are still waiting to be picked, we can get through it, that the harvest will come in? And what is the particular harvest for which we hope? How do we reconcile the irreconcilable? I've found a sanctuary of spiritual healing as close as the brick patio off my kitchen. The patio faces south and it's framed by trees, but it still allows the view of a great expanse of nighttime sky. And sitting on that patio at night is a form of worship for me. It is there that I come face to face with shooting stars and harvest moons. If it's chill, we light a fire in an old iron chimenea and sip a little Irish whiskey. The flaming wood makes me recall those long-lost smells of burning leaves with my father. But most important, under that nighttime sky, I contemplate meanings that can be preserved from the intersections of promise and loss in my life and in the lives of others. Shooting stars and harvest moons. In my pagan theology of the moon and stars, while the way I think of it is that while stars are of a distant universe, the harvest moon is part of this world. Moon symbolizes our reflection on what there is, on what is happening now in this world around us. But shooting stars, those rare, precious, unexpected, fleeting visions like the Perseid meteor showers of late August, they're from another world. Shooting stars, in my theology, symbolize the possibility of meanings that transcend our limited capacities to understand. They symbolize opportunities not realized or perhaps not even thought of in times of separation and loss. And we live at the intersection of both worlds. Contemplation of the nighttime sky washed by the moon, speckled with points of light in its darkest regions, provides comfort. It's the simple acknowledgement of separations we cannot prevent, losses we cannot control. That acknowledgement gives what I cannot prevent and what I cannot control a place in my life. The harvest moon is the image of that acknowledgement. It lives within our world, this impassive light from time to time that illuminates the world, spreading its pale glow through the clouds that scud across its face. The clouds are reflections of thoughts I am pondering in that someone no longer here also once pondered. In fact, the naming of moons derives from Native American tribes who identified full moons as part of their cycle of hunting and gathering and agriculture. October is the month of the harvest moon, the time of the ripe corn festival, when people give thanks to all living things of the fields and earth that help them live. The rareness of the shooting stars symbolizes possibility, meanings that transcend the bounds of our experience. Shooting stars come from a world beyond immediate time and space. In August that was just past, the Perseid meteor showers are a fitting climax to the end of summer, occurring when the weather is still warm and clear. European folklore called them St. Lawrence's tears, after the martyrdom of the saint at the hands of the Roman Emperor Valerian in 258. The meteors appear to radiate from the constellation Perseus. And amazingly, you could hold a Perseid meteor in your hand and never even notice it. Each is a fleck the size of a grain of sand. Its sheer speed turns it into the bright streak that you see. So on our patio, we stare into the blue-black sky. The harvest moon reflects back feelings of ambiguity, to give them a place in our lives, the opportunity to accept them. And then suddenly the occasional streak of light from a shooting star is an unexpected revelation, a glimpse of some possibility we never considered, some meaning we had never known or even thought about. That rare shooting star is the possibility for hope. Each of us has the possibility of discovering a way to address the perplexities of our experience of separation and loss that accompany transitions, to entertain hope and the promise of the future. For me, the nighttime sky is the focus of a meditation that gives me peace. Staring into the nighttime sky, I see both a reflection of this world, but possibilities that lie beyond it. a region in which our lives find harmony for those things we cannot control. That region of peace is available to each of us. It is available in ways we can discover for ourselves, in images that make sense in each of our own lives. I share this image of the nighttime sky of shooting stars and harvest moons in the hope you will find your own sanctuary of peace in your times of transition, of separation, of loss. Each of you has your own sanctuary of peace, your own region of possibilities never thought of. Each of you can find it. I know you can. In fact, I know you can sing this along with me because I heard you singing it before. And it goes like this: shine on, shine on, shine on, harvest moon. Up in the sky, I ain't had no love since January, February, June, or July. Snow time, pay no time to stay outdoors and swoon. Shine on, harvest moon, for me and my gal. Almost. Our final hymn is number 336, All My Memories of Love. All my memories of love and kindness, all the souls I've lost to tears, now the autumn joys, and the air around me begins with their song. Sing again their nameless tunes, sing again and strong. Willows in September touch the Lord. Set among the rushes full of the flow. Rising up from sunlit as from the shadow sun. Running toward me silently to for the fun. Many are the grateful ones on this tree, and it seems there's room for mine on grand free. And the sky above the tree, whether wet or green, is my easy comforting peace. Well done, that's a hard one to sing. But see, the people who put together the singing in the living tradition never thought about that. Medieval chants and so forth. In closing, I leave you with the words that accompany my urging to go in peace that I say to my own congregation in New Bedford. Words from the past, I bet you can remember where it comes from. Let's be careful out there. And I'll hear your choral amen.